Good morning. So today we're going to work on using a number line, and we're going to use the vocabulary word midpoint. So before we get started, I know there's a bright spot right here, and that's from the projector in the classroom. So we're just going to ignore it, and I'll write over it when I get closer to it. Okay. So we have three number lines here. The first number line is multiples of 10, okay? So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. And also I want you to know all three of these start with 0, okay? The second number line that we're going to look at today has multiples of 100. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000. And then the last number line that we're going to look at today starts at 0 and is multiples of 1,000. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000, 10,000. So these three number lines are all multiples of 10, 100, and 1,000. And just for a second, I want you to turn around and either tell a stuffed animal or an adult that's home with you or a sibling or your pet. I want you to turn and talk and tell them, what do you notice about these three number lines other than their multiples? How are they the same? So I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to talk to somebody. All right, so if I look at these three number lines, I'm going to see this is a 10, 100, 1,000. What's the difference in the three? This has 2 places, 3 places, 4 places. We just added a 0 each time. Same thing. Okay, we added a 0 each time. Think about that. So this has a 0, this one has 2 zeros, and this one has 3 zeros. Okay, so the next thing I want to look at while we're looking at these number lines, we're going to learn a new word, and it's called midpoint. Okay, so you're going to need your math journal, and if you need to pause to go get your math journal, go ahead and do that. So I'm going to write the word midpoint. And then I want to think of other words that are also the same as midpoint. So midpoint is also the middle. Midpoint is also in between. And midpoint is also halfway. All of these vocabulary words mean the exact same thing, okay? So let's work at finding the midpoint between 0 and 10, or what number comes in the middle. What digit is in between 0 and 10, or which digit or number is halfway between 0 and 10? So if I were counting from 0 to 10, what number is right in the middle? I'm going to give you 5 seconds. 5 seconds! 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's our number, actually. Haha. 5. 5 is the midpoint. That is our number that is in the middle, in between, halfway between 0 and 10. Okay, now let's find the midpoint between 10 and 20. You guessed it, 15. Which number comes halfway or in between 20 and 30? Find the midpoint. 25. In between 30 and 40, I know you guys have this by now. 35. Midpoint, 45. Between 50 and 60, 55, 60 and 70, 65. Between 70 and 80, 75, 85, and then 95. What do you notice about the midpoint numbers that we added? They all have a 5 in the ones place. That's something that they all have in common. All right, so we have found the midpoint, or the number that's in the middle, on our tens number line. Now let's go to the hundreds number line. If 5 is the midpoint between 0 and 10, I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about what number would be in the middle or halfway between 0 and 100. That number is 50. 50 is in the middle at the midpoint between 0 and 100. So 50 is halfway on our number line. When I think about the hundreds, I think about money, okay? So if I have 4 quarters equal what? $1, which is 100, okay? And if I wanted to split these in half, halfway, I had 2 quarters here and 2 quarters here. How much is that? 25, 50, and then these two, 50, okay? So 50 is half of $1. 50 is the midpoint between 0 and 100, okay? So now, what number do you think comes in between 100 and 200? It's going to be 150. That's our midpoint. Okay? What number comes in between 200 and 300? Look at these two when you think about it. That's right, 250. What number comes in between 300 and 400? 350. Do you see the pattern now? Midpoint is 450. 550. 650. 750. 850. And then 950. And that is finding the midpoint on a hundreds number line. Our next one we're going to look at is the thousands place. And I know that's a really big number now to find the midpoint. You're thinking, there's no way I can find the midpoint. But remember when I told you we're just adding a 0? So these don't have a 0, right? We didn't have a 0 in the ones place. We have a 5. And when we came down to the hundreds, we still have those same numbers, but we added a 0 to the ones place. So if I'm adding 1 0 here, I'm going to add how many zeros here? 2. Okay? So between 0 and 1,000, the midpoint, I'm going to still have my 5. But remember I said I'm going to add how many zeros to that number? 2. 500 is our midpoint. So between 0 and 1,000, 500 is in the middle. 500 is the midpoint. So it's the same thing that I did up here. I look at this, 1,000, 2,000. So the midpoint would be 1,000. Oh, hold on. 1,500. Okay? Now I'm going to look and I'm going to do the exact same thing. 2,500. is the midpoint. In between 3,000 and 4,000 is 3,500. In between 4,000 and 5,000, 4,500. Are you starting to see the pattern now? We're just using the numbers that they're in between, the first number that they're in between, and then adding 500. Okay? 5,000, 6,000 would be what? 5,500. 6,000 and 7,000, the midpoint would be 6,500. The midpoint between 7,000 and 8,000 is 7,500. The number between 8,000 and 9,000, the midpoint is 8,500. 9,000 and 10,000, 10,000, wow, 9,500. So boys and girls, you have just learned how to find the midpoint on a number line. So this one is multiples of what? 10. Multiples of 100 and multiples of 1,000. And if you want to pause this video and you can zoom in, I would love it, love it if you would recreate this in your math journal today and then show us on Zoom. So I want you to look at the vocabulary words that we came up with. Midpoint, middle, in between, and halfway. Good luck. You guys are doing great.